I like the way the letters lay out. They just look so good. If I can just, here, we'll make a spot with an erase. And right. Doesn't that look good? Just, it's so simple. You can put New York right underneath it if you want. And it fits perfect.
I grew up in Brooklyn. For me, Troy reminds me a lot of my hometown, specifically when Brooklyn was cool.
When a place can become its own adjective, and it's sort of people know what that means, you know you have something special. There's like a Troy way of things.
Are you talking in my sleep?
I love the architecture. I love all the old Victorian buildings, amazing brick buildings and like foundries and carriage houses and old factories on the river. I was just like, this place is so awesome. And then like mountains in the background with RPI on them. Like it's a really pretty little city.
So architecture, because it's got a lot of great architecture.
Historically speaking, their architecture is very intact.
The architecture was a big draw.
The music hall. Oh, I remember, oh, that is a beautiful place to go to.
Out loud dream. Did we miss you when you stepped out in that light?
I like that we're close to rivers and mountains, that right outside of Troy is beautiful land. You don't have this kind of ugly suburban ring.
Sitting down by the river, because it's nice and quiet.
Waterfalls and swimming holes right in the middle of Troy.
After its industrial meltdown, we have all of these natural spaces tucked in the middle of city. So like right now we're at a waterfall, but about 200 feet away is a busy road, which we can't hear and we can't see. Troy has these little pockets where you can go hang out and experience nature. It's a really special town that way, and it's because we have so many eras built up on top of one another. And now we know to protect those things that have fallen apart.
Did you find yourself through another way out? Can you put these colors in my sky?
Troy, you're walking around and you feel a sense of ancestors. This place is iconically American in all of its bumps and warts and shiny spots.
I just think that Troy has such a cool history because we're not a very old country, but you can hear great stories about the people here always being kind of like subversive, arguing types that didn't take any crap. It's like all these wild little beasts in the mountains.
It's a charming, gritty little city that has everything I could possibly need.
But it's close to Montreal, Boston, New York City. Everything's only like 3 hours away, really, at the most.
New York City.
Okay, I'll be over there. Is this Boston?
Well, Boston would be like a...
So, I'm gonna use a seagull from Montreal.
So where is Troy?
Oh yeah, I don't know, it's in there.
Hot light, slide.
Sort of a small city, and it's very walkable.
I live here in the heart of downtown. I park my car on Friday night, and Monday morning I have no idea where I left it because I never had to move it.
I only use my car once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Well, I like how walkable Troy is. So we go out quite often to restaurants and bars.
I like food, and there's a lot to eat in Troy. There's so many different restaurants.
Within walking distance.
Within walking distance, yes.
Great places to eat. And there's so many places to eat, I can't even count all the places that I can eat.
Dante's is so close by.
I love to go out here. I love to go to the restaurants, the shops.
So I like to browse some of the shops. They've got things that you can't find anywhere else around the area.
I like the bookstore because I like to read.
Just the fact that you can walk everywhere. It's a great walking city. The library, the bookstore, all the banks are here. I can walk everywhere. My kids walk everywhere with me.
You walk down the street, people say hello, they connect with you,
And it's a very open community. People want to make those kinds of connections. Whether you know somebody or not, they're going to stop and say hello, or just keep walking and say hello.
So every time I walk down the street, somebody says hello, and they know me by name, and they know what I do, and they're interested in it, genuinely.
People talk to you on the street, they ask how you're doing, you know, they say hello.
The people in Troy, it's getting where they're saying hello, talking to you.
The people that I have here is my favorite part about it. Not just my friends necessarily, but the people who I meet on a daily basis. I mean, I think that there's just a really interesting culture here that is this hodgepodge of old school people who have been here for a long time, who are sort of in this post-industrial place themselves, much like the city, and then an influx of people who have been here since the 60s up until now, which basically are people who've come up from New York City because it's unaffordable to live there, to this sort of new influx of mostly younger people either coming for school and maybe deciding to stick around, or coming as part of work programs like AmeriCorps and Vista.
You can pretty much wander downtown at any point in time and run into people that you know and love.
There's just such a condensed amount of cool people in this area that walking down the street becomes like a social event.
When I run errands, I have to allow extra time because I'm going to meet so many people and stop to talk with them that I'll be late otherwise.
It feels like a place where everyone knows everyone, like the neighborhood Cheers bar, except it's a whole town.
It feels like Seinfeld or Cheers or something.
In my neighborhood, anything can be happening at any given time, and 10 people will just sort of pop up at your house and start talking and hanging out.
Because one thing I've noticed about the Troy people, this is my experience, I don't want to generalize, is that they seem to be down to earth. They're not arrogant, whatever. They're just down to earth, real people.
There are just so many interesting characters and stories that come out of this city. And the longer you're here, the more you get it, and the more you can't live without it.
People. I know a lot of great people in Troy.
It's not just the physical space, it's the people who live here, and I love them.
I like the diversity. So many of the things I'm involved in have people of all ages, of all backgrounds, from all different geographical areas.
People are incredibly diverse, and on any given night you see people getting together from all different age groups, all different colors, and all different backgrounds, and everyone seems to get along just great.
There's all these great activist people that live in Troy, and we all have different viewpoints on how things should be done. But the one thing that we can agree on is that we love Troy and we want to make it a better place to live.
Troy is a unique place because everybody works together, even if they have different political backgrounds or live at different parts of the city. Everybody kind of gets together and is really excited about Troy. Everybody's pro-Troy if they're libertarian or anarchist or progressive or Democratic or Republican. They're all pro-Troy, and so they work together.
You're in the city and you walk around, you talk to people, and whatever kind of people need help with, you go help them with it, because I guess Troy's that kind of place where people just say, hey, can you help me do this thing tomorrow? And you say, sure, I can do that.
People really care and help each other out. Troy seems to get smaller and smaller because everybody knows everybody.
If you run into someone, they always happen to know someone else.
I really like the community here.
There's more of a community here. I feel that it's more of a small town in a larger city.
Community.
Community.
The community.
The community.
Troy's gem is its people and the community.
That sounds pretty cliche to say, the community is my favorite part of Troy, but it actually is.
I like that I know the names of my bank tellers and my postal delivery person and where I get my bread, and I like that small town feel with big city ideas and movement.
More than just the farmer's market, I really like that I go because I know half the vendors, and you can just say so man, you're he's that guy who owns Beirut, and you can see him, he sees you.
You feel like you're connected to the things that you're buying, not just because you're buying it, not just because you're eating it, not just because you're wearing it, but you actually meet the people that have created and produced these things.
town is vibrant. There's stuff going on and people are coming here. You know, now that they redeveloped the waterfront, there are people coming from all outside of Troy there, you know, for food truck festivals, and they had a big barbecue thing this weekend. I think that it's amazing that a city the size of Troy is doing all of those things, because I think a lot of cities the size of Troy are not able to do those kinds of things.
There are just so many good things going on here to be a part of.
Last week we just had Pig Out, there's Chowder Fest in October, there's Troy Night Out once a month. There's just so much going on and there's always something to do.
I think it's a great place for retirees, you know, because there's so many ways to be active and involved that you don't even think of playing golf.
Why you carrying a two-man song?
It's the land of opportunity.
It's really a giant laboratory. The barrier to entry in Troy is so low if you want to do and start things, especially if you're creative and a bit entrepreneurial.
It's an interesting city with phenomenal opportunities for anybody who really wants to dig in and get involved.
There's still all these tiny little storefronts downtown, and that's very low overhead, and it doesn't take a whole lot of investment for someone to say, I want to do this cool thing in this storefront and see what happens.
There is space available here that isn't in other places, and the space that I'm talking about is partially physical, but also a certain cultural space that is open in a way for people to do creative projects. So they can be subversive creative projects or otherwise. The size of the town makes it so that you can do things that have an impact, in my experience at least.
Small things have a bigger impact because you're talking about a smaller, more concentrated population.
It's a place where you can really feel like you can make a difference. It's a scale where when you put your mind to something, you can impact other people's lives, you can impact your own, and you can make not just your neighborhood, but really your whole community better if you put your mind to it.
No matter what you want to do, you're welcomed. You know, you're not pushed out of things. People are always happy to have you come and participate.
There's a low barrier to entry for lots of interesting things. And it's small enough that you just might run into someone who's doing something really cool or socially transformative. And that's really exciting. And then you can actually be a part of it. And you don't necessarily have to be hip to be a part of it.
I find that people who are here are generally somewhat innovative or at least open to trying different things.
It's an experimental city, and it's doing things that are experimental. It's low risk. You know, if something doesn't work, you know, nobody's going to lose their skin in the trade.
I needed to live with awesome people who did projects and thought outside the box, and I knew that there were a lot of really creative people in Troy who really took initiative.
My biggest project right now is called Troy Nexus. So the idea is that any of the many people in Troy who are working to improve the city or make something cool happen can find collaborators.
I'm going to the Ale House because they have Front Parlor Series, which is this storytelling night essentially.
That's how it works. There's a theme every month. This month's theme is brothers and sisters. Tellers throw their names in a can. No pressure. A little pressure, no pressure. And the tellers have 5 minutes to tell a true story, no notes and no props.
The hospital did not tell my parents that they had not tied my mother's tubes. They figured, well, you know, when she comes in from 6 weeks, you know, any lady who's already 42 isn't having sex after some surgery.
I don't know if you've ever heard the call of a peacock. I'm going to try to do that for you right now. But it essentially goes, help, help. And it is bone chilling.
This is the first time I found out how much acid my mother did when she was my age.
You name it, and kind of involved with it. I'm a member of the Tech Valley Center of Gravity.
Another big project recently has been the Center of Gravity. So this is a space where anyone can join and get access to machine tools and then metalworking tools, mills, 3D printers, laser cutters, electronics tools.
Found you out by that city limit sign.
When I first came here, I very quickly found myself part of a community, getting involved with people at the bike rescue.
I'm involved in Troy Bike Rescue.
Helped to run the Troy Bike Rescue. I founded the Troy Bike Rescue 11 years ago, and now we've grown into basically a bicycle resource center based in North Troy. I also volunteer doing programming and production for the Sanctuary for Independent Media.
I'm involved in Sanctuary for Independent Media,
which is right up the block.
Sanctuary for Independent Media. It does a great job of bringing really good music to Troy. I just like that that place has been able to be a nexus of interesting culture, alternative culture, non-dominant culture for anyone to enjoy or take part in. And so beyond the music, that includes documentaries and workshops. Like over the time that I've been in Troy, they have increased their level of community involvement and how much they are trying to do art with the community.
I started, assisting with booking shows at 51 3rd Street and eventually took over booking a lot of those shows.
As Emma Goldman said, a revolution without dancing is not a revolution worth having. And I think Troy is the kind of place that isn't going to have revolution unless there's dancing.
Swing dancing here often.
This is a huge dance scene. I'm a curator at Daisy Bakers, who has dancing 3 nights a week, plus the weekends.
There's a lot going on artistically and community-wise, and a lot of good creative energy here that not everybody knows about, but once you experience it, you can't help but fall in love with it.
It's a mecca for art, it's a mecca for geeks. Between the Art Center and all the different galleries and all the different little boutiques and Troy Night Out.
The Art Center is this multi-arts sort of extravaganza. We have classes for kids, teens, and adults in a variety of different arts disciplines.
I do a lot of artwork at the Rourke Center.
I go to the Rourke Center, I do hand building.
Once a month they do a Last Friday event where there are many venues that participate and they have bands and other types of things going on.
Art shows, art galleries, different things.
I mean, there's just a lot of great things going on in Troy.
But it's not perfect and we have work to do, and there's still segregation and stuff like that, but okay. You can cut that.
No, for sure. No, it's true. No, you need truth. Yeah. I mean, this is a real place with real
problems.
Contemporary problems.
But if we can solve them anywhere, it'll be Troy.
For sure.
So while I feel like there's a lot of good stuff going on here, and I'm really happy to be here, I also think there's a lot of, the reason I'm happy to be here is because there's a lot of change that needs to happen, and it feels like we can be part of the change.
Troy is like a place in transition where they built a thing, and then parts of it fell apart, and they're trying to build new things, and so it's really like asking for your participation. You really can't just consume Troy. There's no Troy just to consume. There's a Troy to be built, because it's something that it asks you to take part in it, as opposed to just watching everyone else with money take part in it.
The other thing I like about Troy is it's not always easy. It has lots of rough edges. It has similar issues and problems as any other metropolitan area. It just feels more, the changes and solutions feel more attainable here.
I think it's a city that's trying to improve.
And trying to create creative solutions that are outside of the norm of what's possible.
Really innovative, creative, inspiring work that's happening that I think is really essential for where we are as a society today. People thinking differently about solving social problems. Not just talking about it, but doing it. You have the bike rescue, you have community gardens, Collard City Growers, the Sanctuary for Independent Media, 51 3rd Street, you have the Farmers Market, you have Troy Shares, you have the policy shorts.
The Uptown Initiative is a group of residents They could be homeowners or people that have apartments within North Central. What we started to do is we wanted to be more of an action group. We were doers, and we still are, and it was less about talk. So we started cleaning up the streets, doing clean and sweeps. I did a chicken workshop here at my house. So it was just kind of, what can we do as far as action? One thing that was really cool about the Uptown Initiative was one of our members, Peggy Kaunak, she actually restarted the Troy Central Little League.
I'm involved with Troy Shares.
I got involved with some people who were starting this Troy Shares organization, which is a time bank.
It started as a personal need of like, how do I do this? I'm a single mother, and I have a house. How am I going to do this? I acknowledge that everybody has gifts and everybody has needs. Can we create a system that allows our human resources to connect with our human needs?
We're in a space where we are able to have different relationships with people that aren't based on the typical economic ones that you see in the sort of shopping consumer environment.
We belong to a Troy babysitting cooperative we have together.
I'm also trying to start a skate park in Troy.
I'm involved in College City Growers, which is a community garden in North Central Troy.
I moved to this food desert and wanted to learn how to grow food and noticed that I had no grocery store within walking distance or biking distance. So that's College City Growers. It just takes the shape of whoever's around and whoever wants to learn how to grow food and reimagine vacant space, of which there is a lot in Troy.
I work for Capital District Community Gardens with a program called the Produce Project.
We started our community gardening program here, our urban landscaping program here, our Veggie Mobile, and we're here on our urban farm, the Produce Project.
I'm helping organize Troy Compost.
So I'm involved with Troy Composting.
I've been really involved with the composting project, where we've been trying to get the city to compost our waste.
It's really not difficult to start things. I find the city government to be pretty accessible.
I'm very involved with the city government.
I mean, this is a fairly large city, 50,000 people. Yeah, I know all the city council people, all the, the mayor, and they know me too. You're bumping into them all the time.
City council and government are pretty accessible.
Citizens and the government working together, and I'm really excited to be a part of that and to help organize that, because there is so much genius here, and the way we create a community that's good for all is utilizing everyone's gifts.
Troy to me is a fantasy land. It's an incredible, magical place. It is really the greatest place I've ever been to, and I'm here by choice. Nowhere else in the world I'd rather be. It's funny, the other day I was looking at a plane fly overhead, and I remember at times feeling in my life like I wish I was going somewhere else, and I just kind of thought about Troy and everything that's happening right now around me and everything that's happening in my life, and there's nowhere I'd rather be.
Off from your eyes when you look to those city lights. Your old man, he ain't coming for you. One foot in the ground, one hand right up in the sky. Right there for you by the tree. Don't listen to them, you gotta listen to me. Don't sit and ask me why I never tell a lie. Don't you shoot your lover's while you cut you in half with a two-man saw.
You could make the O into a basketball.
That line goes all the way across.
This one? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I never played basketball.
I did.
Okay. Like this?
Yep.
Seems wrong.
That's right.
It's like a Darth Vader helmet now. Now it looks like a dress.